Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm coming to you from a new location this week. This episode was recorded and produced from my hotel room in Jackson, Mississippi. This morning, though, I'm facilitating some classroom training in Meridian, Mississippi. It's about 70 minutes away from this hotel. I'll be mostly operating out of Jackson, though, because it is central to many of the field teams I'll be working with for the next 2 weeks. I do get another break from field work when I head over to Plano, Texas, just north of Dallas, for another classroom session early next week. Then it's right back here to Jackson. I started off last week facilitating one classroom session, followed by a couple of days of field work in the Houston, Texas area. As I told you all last week, the next few trips will involve a lot of windshield time as I drive all over the state of Mississippi and West Louisiana working with these crews. I'm joined in this week's episode, as well as next week's, with I'm joined in this week's, as well as next week's episode by Nate Dressel. He is one of the 14 people that the Tennessee State Republican Party kicked off a GOP primary ballots around the state. He and I will talk about how leadership in the GOP, especially at the county level here in the state of Tennessee, has become toxic, weak, and self-serving. Let this be a warning to the county Republican parties all across the state and to the leadership of the party in Nashville. This type of leadership will be the end of the Republican Party in general in the great state of Tennessee. The party elite at the county level are getting older and they are not recruiting. Tennessee has not always been a so-called red state, and these efforts at the county level will doom the volunteer state into becoming one of those blue hellholes that conservatives have been leaving in droves to come here to Tennessee and escape from. Before we continue with the show, I have to put out this disclaimer again, so here it goes. The following content is approved by Larry Linton for TN12, candidate for the GOP nomination for Tennessee House of Representatives District 12. Larry Linton, treasurer. Now, without any further ado, let's get on with this week's episode of the Liberty, Leadership, and Lies podcast, where I have a great discussion in part one on the topic of toxic and weak leadership with Nate Dressel, Green Beret combat veteran and real conservative Republican in District 10. Welcome to the Liberty, Leadership, and Lies podcast. On this show, we will discuss the assaults on our liberty by the very institution we the people created to secure our liberty. We will also compare and contrast the actions of people in leadership positions to the servant leadership that is needed to protect our God-given, constitutionally protected rights. Additionally, we will break down the many lies that elected and unelected officials in government and media spin every day in order to secure for themselves positions of power and influence that are antithetical to the system of government our founding fathers created and passed down to us. Your host on this program is Larry Linton, a 30-year veteran of the United States Navy who also runs his own leadership consulting company. He is also a candidate for the Republican Party's nomination to represent Tennessee's House District 12, which includes Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Pittman Center, Weirs Valley, Seymour, and parts of Sevierville, and most of Sevier County. So here is your host, Larry Linton. Well, Nate, welcome to the show. Of course, this week's topic is leadership, and I'm sure that you and I have a lot of choice words to talk about with the Tennessee Republican Party leadership. So how are you doing today?
I'm super. Appreciate you having me. And I'm excited to talk about leadership. I know that you and I have some shared experiences, both militarily and now running for regional offices. So should be good.
Good. Yeah. So let's get a little bit into what just happened to you with the Tennessee Republican Party. Go ahead and explain what happened.
Okay. So I got my petition filled out to be a candidate on the primary ballot here in Tennessee's 10th representative district, which is Granger County and Hamlin County. Petition filled out, submitted to both Granger County and Hamlin County election commissions. It was all certified, submitted up to state. I made my announcement several times, but one of the times was at the local Republican Party meeting, letting them know that, hey, I am going to be running in the primary. And opposing the incumbent who's there. Sorry. Another ally calling. So I let them know that I was going to be opposing the incumbent. They got very frustrated. And just about a week or two ago, I received the letter from Mr. Scott Golden, who is the Tennessee Republican Party state chair, letting me know that my candidacy had been protested by people within Hamlin County, and that they would remove me from the primary ballot. I did have the option to appeal, which I told Mr. Golden and my state executive committee members I would be exercising. I submitted my appeal packet, and it was subsequently denied. So apparently they are removing me from the primary ballot for the state representative seat for the 10th district, leaving the incumbent unopposed again this August.
So, I mean, most of the listeners here will know that that's a broken record here in the state of Tennessee. Anytime a true conservative shows up to challenge an incumbent, everything comes out of the woodwork to actually prevent Republicans from being part of the Republican Party.
Absolutely. And I will add that it was not just me. At this point, so far, it's been at least 13 others removed from ballots across the state as well, which I believe leaves at least 6 or 7 incumbents now running completely unopposed.
Which is par for the course everywhere, even down to the local school board levels. That's the way Tennessee tends to operate here lately.
Well, yeah, and there's a documented history of this going on now. I mean, last cycle in 2022, it was Robbie Starbuck, Morgan Ortegas, I forget his first name, but also out by Nashville, guy running was removed. And Robbie Starbuck and Morgan Ortegas are, national level names that have been outspoken conservatives for as far back as you can trace them. And they're still booting them off. There were several down in Chattanooga booted off as well. So they made national news in 2022, booting known conservatives off of the Republican primaries. I know it happened in 2020. They're doing it again in 2024. And I mean, there's no shame about it. They're not even trying to mask
it. Because they've gotten away with it for so long. They're so used to it. I know one of the guys that was kicked off the ballot was a guy named Curtis Carney that was challenging Bill Lee for the Republican Party nomination. And as far as I know, he still hasn't gotten his money back. But I haven't talked to him in over a year. That pay to play fee that they ask us all to pay, the blood money.
The 500. Well, I guess for governor, I think it's either like a $2,000 or $5,000 donation. Yeah, so it's a mandatory donation if you even want a shot at being on the ballot. And then obviously, they don't have to endorse it.
Right.
I mean, I did file for a refund and supposedly it's being processed. So,
which is interesting. So your situation, and much like, I didn't have the bona fides to even consider in 2022. That's why I ran as an independent.
Right.
But now let's see if the GOP, the state party, still holds their own membership to the same standards, because as you know, we talked before that the county executive committee in Sevier County here is some of the members, specifically the chairman, is on the host committee for a fundraiser for my main opponent, which is forbidden by the bylaws. So
absolutely,
what are they going to do with that GOP bylaw violation? I submit to you that they're going to do nothing. I've notified my 2 SEC reps. I think we share a couple of them, Bishop and Patty Mills.
Correct.
I notified them as soon as I found out about it. I just got a reply back from Dan Bishop like 2 days ago. But Patty Mills, she was good. She called me right back. She said, "Hey, send me an email with it and copy Scott Golden on it." So this is going on 2-3 weeks now.
Right.
Still nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I have my original letter from Mr. Golden right here. Oops. Mm-hmm. There we go. Which, funny enough, I received this, or my wife received this on a Thursday afternoon, 2 Thursdays ago, April 9th. When did this come? April 11th, Thursday, April 11th. So this was delivered to my house as I was on military orders, driving out to Tullahoma, Tennessee. So my wife calls me and lets me know what joyous package arrived on our front step. Um, so, I replied to Mr. Golden saying, "Hey, I'm on military orders under the protection of the Service Member Civil Relief Act. I need an extension on the 48-hour deadline you've given to this." Which he was, he's responded to me right away and was very cordial with that. Gave
Mhm.
me time to get my appeals packet together. It's just kind of funny. The they have these bylaws, all these stated things. I filed an appeals packet. I provided voting records going all the way back to 2012, I believe, which I had to scramble. Again, this showed up Thursday evening after business hours. I was on military orders all weekend, away from home. So while I'm out there out at the shooting range on Friday, I'm calling all across the country to everywhere I've been stationed, every county, every state, trying to scramble, gather voting records
Mhm.
as they're winding up their Friday, ready to go home. So I say, yeah, provided voting records, provided character statements to my SEC members, Mr. Golden. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know what they expect. I don't know what they expect for. I understand what the bylaws say, but there has to be some common sense rules and reasoning here. I mean, it's the Republican Party. It's supposed to be the conservatives. It's supposed to be the patriots. So what do they say to us veterans? Pound sand. You ain't from here. I've
Right.
been I've been stationed all over the country and deployed for 20 years. Where do you want me to be from?
Exactly.
I provided voting records. I'm still tracking down some of my absentee ballots. States are having trouble finding them, whether they actually got received from overseas or from wherever I was training. I don't know. Um, so essentially, I think they're looking at it and be like, "Well, you didn't vote in enough primaries." I don't. What do you want me to do? I've provided 12 years of voting records. It's Republican on every single record, for primaries, for generals, for everything. So what is it? Thanks for your service. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Sorry you don't have the right accent. Sorry you don't have the right last name. It's complete bogus.
Yep. I mean, you and I have probably both experienced those commands that we've been a part of where there's toxic leadership,
Right.
and they will do anything to protect their inner circle,
Yeah.
regardless of what's right or what's according to regulations. The inner circle must be protected at all costs, and I think that's what's going on here.
Uh, yeah, it seems that way, whether that's at the state level, at the county level, or you know, I know that it's all party members. I feel like it's a lot of local politics, a lot of local gossip, and quite frankly, they don't like somebody coming in that's 40 years younger than them, that has more energy than them, that actually has a backbone to stand and fight for conservative values. They just don't like somebody breaking up their potluck dinner.
Yep. I
Because
call at the local level. I think they're like title chasers. You mentioned that you had an actual GOP meeting where you announced your candidacy.
I did.
Well, let me tell you, over here, Sevier County, there's not even any of those.
Well,
There's only county executive committee meetings. And since the sheriff has been elected as the chairman, March of last year, even those scheduled county executive committee meetings, they've either been canceled or postponed. They haven't held them on a regular basis because, as I warned at the time, the sheriff has a big job. The opportunity to participate and lead the Republican Party is definitely, it's not even tertiary on his list.
right.
But he was the man that they had to pull in at the last minute because of some other outsider announced his bid to become the county chairman. So they threw him in at the 11th hour.
Yeah.
So all these people that are members of what they call the county executive committee, they're just title chasers. Hey, I'm the secretary, I'm the vice chair, I'm the chair, I'm the member at large for here, 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 here. Yet
Yeah.
they don't do nothing to do what they proclaim that their job is to grow
No,
the
so
Republican Party.
sadly, the outward perception is that the parties and the clubs are nothing more than social clubs. And if you're not one of the friends, if you're not in the right family, if you don't have the right accent, if you haven't lived here long enough to quote pay your dues, then you're not part of the social club. And I mean, I've been honest from day one. I'm not trying to be part of the social club. I don't need a party title. I don't want a party title. I'm not trying to take over your party. I'm a proactive conservative. I have the energy and I have the motivation to do it. I own a business here. I have sons here. My families are here. My family's here. I have a vested interest and a long-term vested interest. I'm not one foot in the grave. You just don't like that I'm not as slow as you, that I'm not as complacent as you, and that I'm threatening your position of power at the table. But
And,
they don't want to use their positions of power to do anything. They're okay with the status quo.
and they don't even reach out to the members that want the party. I mean, we can't really save, I don't believe, the federal government. It's beyond reproach. But we could save Tennessee, and they don't even want that to happen.
No, one
If
of
it
the
threatens their, like you said, their position at the table, that is what's primary, not saving Tennessee.
no,
It's their position's primary.
and one of the tropes that I keep hearing from all of this is all of the same club is that, well, you're not from here. Okay, like I said before, I've been deployed and stationed all over the country for 20 years. Where do you want me to be from? Uh, but their add-on to it is like, well, if you came from California or New York or New Jersey or wherever else you came from, you're trying to change this area. By and large, especially as far east in Tennessee as we are, all the people that I've met who ain't from here, they all have more conservative values and more spine than the people that are kicking us off of the ballots. All of these people have uprooted their homes, uprooted their families, left their jobs, left their everything that they knew to move here to East Tennessee, to be in this region, to live this way of life among people who we thought aligned with our values, who we thought, were politically, socially, and religiously aligned. All of these people have so many stinking values that they have been willing to uproot their lives and will stand by their values and fight for them while we watch everyone at the table be complacent. I was flat out told, when I first moved here and we were going to party meetings, I put my hand up and said, hey, what are you guys doing to make sure that this region stays conservative, to make sure that this region stays Republican, that it stays red? What are you guys doing that's proactive? I kid you not, the answer that I was given by one of the elderly females who was one of the party chairs at the time was, "Well, this area has always been red, so it'll always stay red." And I mean, I was dumbfounded at the stupidity of that answer.
Right.
Like,
California is a perfect example of that. California was red. That was the Ronald Reagan
I
state,
know they gave us Reagan.
right?
It's an ag state.
And
It's
here,
red.
here we go with this. The answer I give to those people that say, hey, well, you're not from here. I'm like, I may not be from here, but I came here as fast as I could.
Right.
I wasn't born and raised here, so I didn't have the no option. This is the only thing I know. I've been everywhere.
Right.
I chose East Tennessee to live and retire to.
Which you should be a selling point for somebody that's vying to be a leader. Somebody who's been other places, who's seen the degradation, both legally, morally, economically, that can take root in places like California, like New York, New England. People that have been around, lived in these places, been stationed in these places, tried to run businesses in these places, we're coming here with experience. And somehow it's fighting an uphill battle against some people who haven't even, been outside of the two counties that border them for
Right.
8 years. We're not trying to change it. We moved to it.
Yeah.
What we are trying to do is prevent this left-wing ideological creep that you are too asleep at the wheel to acknowledge and don't have the know-how to fight back against.
Absolutely. Preach
So,
it.
I mean, if that's their attitude is you ain't from here and it's always been red and it'll always be red, I mean, you deserve the meal that you're about to get.
Right. And I mean, it takes a special kind of dumb leadership to behave like that. I mean, you've been the door kicker. I've never done the door kicking thing, but I've led sailors all over this planet. Nothing that these people can say or do is ever going to intimidate me.
No.
But that's what they operate from, that line of thinking where they live. That, hey, my last name is this, and I've lived here forever, so you have to listen to me. That's that what we call the positional authority. That
Right.
the level one authority. I got the tab. I got the collar device. You have to listen to me. Well, hey, shipmate, that ain't the way it rolls.
No, it's not. Funny during. Yeah, I mean, you were command master chief. I'm not active duty anymore, but still in the guard. I was a Green Beret forever. I'm not. I don't really care what they have to say to me. I'm not going to be intimidated by it. I'm not going to be put off by it. During one of the Hamlin County chair's apoplectic meltdowns at me, I flat out told him, "I was like, look, man, I know that you're upset because I'm not going to bow to you. I'm never going to kiss your ring, and I don't really care about a seat at your table." Which, when you tell that to a 60-year-old man who's, again, just having a complete meltdown where he's hyperventilating and can't make words, it only makes it worse when he realizes that, oh crap, this guy does not, like, genuinely does not care what I think about him. And it's
Right.
true. Like,
They're that type of person that thinks that, hey, if they go in the room and they raise their hand, hey, I'm in charge. I'm in charge. You got to realize if the person that goes in the room that has to point that out, they're not in charge.
no, exactly. The person who takes points of domination and takes control of the room is in charge.
And that's what they're afraid of.
They're terrified of it.
They're terrified. Absolutely. So yeah, I think the Tennessee GOP, the statewide one with Scott Golden, they're particularly weak because they're allowing your GOP membership, my GOP, to do what they want to do, regardless if it violates the bylaws or not. Just as long as those areas like Sevier County, for me, District 12, they continue to vote red. Well, they continue to vote red because they have no other choice, right? This is the only person that's on the ticket, so I got to vote for them. So they've established themselves a false sense of security. But we had a drag queen show in Sevier County.
Yeah, we had one up here in Morristown too. All ages.
Yeah, all ages. It's a family friendly. What the heck is family friendly about some dude?
Yeah,
junk in a kid's face.
Voting red and having somebody that has an R next to their name, that it means nothing. Like, it means absolutely nothing when we have people that aren't proactive conservatives. My perfect example here is, like, my district voted, I think, 76% for Trump in the 2020 election. So, okay, it's a deep red district. Yet at the same time, nobody stood up to take muzzles off of our children, even after Governor Lee's unconstitutional executive order expired. Like, there was no action in their conservatism. Here at Walter State College, the community college, which I believe you guys have one down there too. Yeah, so publicly funded college up here. It's got a deeply left-wing staff, mostly born and raised here. I was at an event there a week or so ago, and we had a bag of our Trumpkin Spice coffee on display, which it's Trumpkin Spice. It's funny. It's a play on words, and it's, we just had it out amongst all of our other bags. This wasn't front and center. It's just in the mix of stuff. It doesn't even have a picture of his face. It's just like an orange outline of Trump hair. Well,
I get home.
an employee from Walter State College saw that bag, talked to the event director, who then talked to me and asked me to remove the bag because they were offended by it. I said, "Are you kidding me?" Like, and the event director is a friend of mine. I wasn't going to create headaches for him. I hid the bag and back, but I was fuming. I almost did the petulant child drag, like grab my table, drag it across the auditorium in the middle. So I'll be going after Walter State pretty hard. But my point of saying all of this is that, yeah, we're voting red. We're voting for people with an R next to their name, but without proactive and aggressive conservatism, this ideological creep, which is already here in your backyard, and we are funding it at places like our schools and Walter State College. We are funding it. You and me and everyone listening to this, we're funding it. It's here, and it's only going to keep growing. And the funny thing, to add on to that, you ain't from here. What are you doing running? Yeah, I'm not from here. And guess what? My kids aren't the ones going to those institutions making these crappy decisions. Yours are.
Right.
Your kids are the ones that are okay with this. Your kids, your cousins, your whoever, your neighbors, the one at Walter State who's born and raised here, who is offended by something as stupid as a bag of coffee. Get off your high horse.
But
I ain't from here.
you're an existential threat to their seat at the table for stepping up to be a conservative, to represent to represent the Constitution. I mean,
Yeah.
you've given your life. I mean, you haven't given it yet, but you've lived your life defending that document. So did I, and yet these people question our motivations, or they question why we're doing this because they think we're after their positions of power. I'm like, no, I'm after protecting our way of life, not sitting idly by, maybe once a year hosting a Lincoln Day dinner or a golf fundraiser. No, I want to go and make sure that our General Assembly, so our state our state government is the last line of defense against an overreaching federal government. But if they have completely abdicated that role,
So
because we have a weak Republican Party, and it's only worse with these, by keeping the incumbents in office, by keeping people like you and I out, it's only going to get worse.
look, I'd be okay losing an election fair and square, but to get pulled off of the primary ballot, I'm like, is this really, this is the best tactic that you guys have? And I mean, let me ask the incumbent, Rick Eldridge, is this really how you want to win the election, by just removing your competition? And I don't even know if Rick Eldridge protested, but he is the incumbent, now the only one on the ballot. So, Rick, is this how you want to win? I don't know if he's going to listen to it, but I'd love an answer.
Right. That is how he wants, or that's how the only way he can win.
Right.
If you get true conservatives out there, we get door to door. I mean, every person I've met in my district that I've talked to, they are sick and tired of what the status quo is.
Right? Same here. Yet unfortunately, it seems that it's so many of people that ain't from here that are the ones that are willing to throw our names in the hat and willing to take on this headache. And that's what it is. It's a headache. I guarantee that you're not running for a state rep seat for the paycheck.
No, I've even stated, well, I don't know if it's come out publicly yet. I've done a bunch of videos, but I'm not even going to take the paycheck, right? Yes. Any salary that the state gives me, I'm going to give to faith-based charities because a government has replaced faith-based charities. So I got to do something to fix that. I don't need the money. I'm not doing this for the money. Yeah. I'm doing this because my grandchild, when I ever get one, my grandchild needs to grow up in a country that is recognizable as United States of America and as the volunteer state. They need to recognize, and they're not going to do it because, like you said, that creeping communism is everywhere. I mean, in these red counties that you and I live in, these red districts, social emotional learning is taught in our schools.
Yes.
I've been part of this one group or been affiliated or working with, or however you want to refer to them, but they've been fighting, or they fought, the epic library in our public schools. And the school board, not willing to listen to them at all, said what we're saying. Sometimes they called us internet or social media conspiracy theorists. That's not really in it. And lo and behold, the state finally outlawed or took out the epic library from schools because it does have graphic stuff, because they're not willing to look. School boards have abdicated their responsibility to protect children because, hey, it doesn't align with keeping my seat on the board.
Right. Well, when I first moved here, at the time, the most junior member of our county school board had been there for 18 years. Some of the senior ones had been there for over 40.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not a social club. I mean, all of their children are older than I am.
Right.
What are you doing sitting on this board? Go home.
Exactly. Well, that's quite similar to what we had in Sevier County. We do got some people with kids or grandkids in the school district, but it's beyond the pale that they have abdicated their responsibility. What they have done is they've let the administrators control them.
Correct.
When it's the opposite is true. They run the schools. We busted them in this they purchased this social emotional learning curriculum and then voted post purchase. And then when they were called out on it, they said, oh, well, that was below the minimum. We didn't even need to vote to approve that because it's below their minimum threshold for get approval.
Uh-huh.
So if you allow that to happen in your schools, every bid is going to be worked on to fall below the minimum you need to approve it because you've abdicated your responsibility, your authority, and your accountability to people that just want to sexualize children.
Yep. Absolutely. And they know that in some of these school boards, like in reference to the people that have been on our board for so long, they're so unaware and so out of touch with what's actually going on. Like you could put this in front of them and call it by any other name, and they're not going to understand what you're even showing them.
Exactly.
Just put a pretty bow on it, and they'll be okay with it.
Well, folks, that's just part one of the interview. Be sure and come back next week to see how we wrap it up. For this week's wisdom from God's word, we return once again to the book of wisdom in scripture, specifically Proverbs chapter 28, verse 15. Like a roaring lion or a charging bear is a wicked ruler over a poor people. As Nate and I discussed in this week's show, the toxic and weak leadership displayed by many of Tennessee's individual county Republican parties, the end result will be the communists taking over the state. They'll be like a roaring lion or a charging bear. The Republican Party is setting themselves up to return to the pre-2008 era of Democrat Party control of the state. Just how long did it take the Republican Party to gain the majority in both the House of Representatives and Senate here in Tennessee? Well, it was 140 years. Would you like for that to happen to our beloved state? Once the commies gain the majority, it will not be too long before voting laws will be changed to look like other blue states, setting up the commies for long-term control. Or when the General Assembly will mandate a $20 an hour minimum wage law that will destroy many small businesses and drive up the cost of living. Drive it up even more than the Dementia Patients Administration in Washington, D.C. has already done. Drag queen story hours will become the norm instead of the exception, and child sexualization in government schools will be mandated. Don't forget about the mutilation of children suffering from a mental illness that Vanderbilt was made famous for a couple of years ago. This toxic and weak leadership in the GOP, especially at the county level here in Tennessee, will be the biggest contributor to the downfall of the Republican Party statewide. As you heard in the discussion today, the Tennessee GOP acted quickly and removed candidates, real conservatives, from the ballot all across the state. But do you think they will hold the good old boys here in Sevier County accountable for their violation of the party's bylaws? We know the answer to that, don't we? It's been 2 weeks now since the members of the SEC and state GOP chairman, Mr. Scott Golden, they were notified of the action, and they haven't taken any yet so far. They will only take action if it threatens their seats at the table of power, ladies and gentlemen. That is why their brand of toxic and weak leadership will doom the state of Tennessee to look more and more like California every day. I'm humbly asking that all of you take a stand in the arena with me and return the Republican Party back to its foundational principles so that we can restore our state and our nation back to their foundational principles of individual liberty and small government. Until next week, reveille, it's time to wake up.